Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today's lecture is on Erythema multiforme, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and toxic epidermal necrolysis. You all know that these topics are not included in the current edition in one chapter. They have separated it into two different chapters, but since we have always read them together and we have always considered them together, so I thought that I would discuss these two topics, that is Erythema multiforme and Stevens-Johnson and 10 together. So let's start from the first slide. Erythema multiforme, Stevens-Johnson syndrome and 10 were considered to form a spectrum from mild to fulminating. This was the concept which we have always been propagating, that Erythema multiforme, Stevens-Johnson syndrome and 10 are same disease which varies from a spectrum from mild to fulminating disease. Nowadays, since Stevens-Johnson syndrome and 10 is considered to be only because of drugs, so that's why these two syndromes are now placed in a different chapter and considered to be a little different from Erythema multiforme minor and major. So we would like to address this controversy as we proceed further in this talk. Erythema multiforme, which is the basic lesion, is best regarded as a self-limiting cytotoxic dermatitis resulting from cell-mediated hypersensitivity, most commonly to drugs or infection. So even Erythema multiforme is caused by drugs, but the most common etiology is definitely infection, not drug. And it presents clinically with a spectrum of macular, papillary, or urticarial lesion, as well as the classic acral, iris, or targetoid lesion. EM can occur at any age, including neonates and young children. In general, the course is that of an eruption developing over a few days and resolving in 2 to 3 weeks. It's a self-resolving disease. Repeated attacks are associated with recurrent herpes simplex. So this is usually the common cause of repeated EM. Lesions are commonly involving palm and soles and trunk, as well as oral and genital mucous membrane with erosion.
Sorry, आवाज डिस्टॉर्ट हो रही है.
Lesions are mostly on hands and feet, but may involve trunk, and in severe cases it involves oral and genital mucosa. The Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is considered as an extensive form of Erythema multiforme, involves trunk and mucous membrane, and now it is associated with symptoms. आप लोगों को आवाज आ रही है? आप लोगों को आवाज आ रही है?
जी सर, अब आवाज आई है. जी सर, आवाज आई है. पहले बिल्कुल डिस्टॉर्ट हो गई थी.
नहीं सर, अभी नहीं हो रही.
अभी नहीं हो रही.
अब हो रही है?
स्क्रीन नहीं हो रही सर.
अब हो गई
सर, अब हुई है.
हाँ, ठीक है. अच्छा,
जी सर हो गया अभी.
ये दोबारा बता दें, इसमें जो आपने समझाया वो पीछे आवाज डिस्टॉर्ट हो गई थी.
Stevens-Johnson जो Erythema multiforme mainly involves palm and soles, and or hands and feet. Rarely it involves the trunk and oral and genital mucous membrane with erosion. Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is considered to be an extensive form of erythema multiforme, involves mainly the trunk and mucous membrane, and constitutional symptoms like fever, malaise, myalgias, and arthralgias are associated with Stevens-Johnson. Lyell first reported toxic epidermal necrolysis that is characterized by extensive sheets of skin necrosis, which is accompanied by severe involvement of conjunctival, corneal, buccal, labial, and genital mucous membrane. So the difference between TEN and Stevens-Johnson syndrome is mainly in the severity of symptoms and in extent of the involvement of the skin. Herpes simplex is associated with 10% cases of Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and most of the cases, Stevens-Johnson syndrome is because of drugs. Stevens-Johnson syndrome has skin blistering and erosions covering less than 10% of the body surface, while 10, as you all know, is characterized by involvement of more than 30% of the body. The term acute disseminated epidermal necrolysis, or ADEN, was proposed with ADEN type 1 corresponding to Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and type 2 to transition between Stevens-Johnson syndrome and TEN, with epidermal detachment between 10 to 29%, and type 3 as full blown toxic epidermal necrolysis. So although this is not a common terminology, but just remember that this is now a newly introduced term. So you may come across this during the exam, that is acute disseminated epidermal necrolysis, or ADEN. ADEN 1 is Stevens-Johnson, ADEN 2 is transition between Stevens-Johnson and TEN, and ADEN 3 is TEN. Etiology. Immunology, the syndrome probably has an immunological basis. Immune complexes both in skin and in circulation. Autoantibodies against epithelial cells, and autoantibodies against the desmosomal plaques proteins, the desmoplekin 1 and 2, with suprabasal acantholysis have been demonstrated. So these are all theories supporting the immunological basis of this syndrome. The dermatopathology and immunopathology suggest delayed hypersensitivity. CD4 lymphocytes have been found in the dermis and CD8 in epidermis. Herpes simplex virus DNA have been identified in lesions which have been induced, lesions of EM which have been induced by erythema, induced erythema multiforme. Some triggers of erythema multiforme. There is a long list of viral infections, but the most common are first two, herpes simplex and mycoplasma. However, it can also be seen in AIDS, adenovirus, cytomegalo, hepatitis B, infectious mononucleosis, and Wilker's nodules, mumps, polio, or bacterial like rickettsia, fungal like histoplasmosis, drugs including vaccination, and certain contract reaction and miscellaneous causes. Drug reaction. It is well recognized pattern of adverse cutaneous reaction. However, only 10% of EM is related to drug. And I have already mentioned that only 10% of Stevens-Johnsons are associated with infection, and similarly only 10% of erythema multiforme cases are associated with drugs. Cephalosporins were recorded in 59% of EM patients and 68% of Stevens-Johnson. Confirmation of drug sensitivity is important as re-exposure to the drug carries an unacceptable risk of severity. These are the drugs which have been implicated in causing erythema multiforme. But just remember that only 10% of the causes of EM are the cause of drugs. So the list includes antibiotics, antiretroviral, NSAIDs, paracetamol, metals, antihypertensives, drugs acting on central nervous system, topical agents, and vaccines. You all know about these targetoid lesions, which we typically see in case of erythema multiforme. Sometimes you will not see these typical targetoid, but some resemblance to the targetoid. For the targetoid lesions, remember that there is a central blister and surrounding edema. Sometimes you see the blister like this, sometimes you see the necrotic area. And surrounding this blister, there is an edema, and then surrounding the edema, there is erythema. So this is usually the morphology of this targetoid. Now the histopathology. Erythema multiforme comes under the histopathological diagnosis of interface dermatitis. And in my lectures on interface dermatitis, I several times use the term that all the lichenoid dermatoses are interface dermatitis, but all the interface dermatitis are not. So if we call an interface dermatitis, it means we mean that it is the basal cell vacuolar degeneration and pigmentary incontinence. Once the vacuolar cell degeneration occurs, then you can also find the colloid bodies, which we can see here. In addition to that, in erythema multiforme minor, we see single cell necrosis. Like here, in epidermis, there will be areas of eosinophilic colloid bodies like structures, which we call as the single cell necrosis. And similarly, the colloid bodies are seen in the dermis as well. And their basal cell is not existing here, and we see pigmentary incontinence. This is single cell necrosis. This is single cell necrosis. And these are the colloid bodies. This is the pigmentary incontinence, and basal layer is completely non-existent. So here the infiltrate is dense at the dermoepidermal junction, but these are the colloid bodies. So the severity of the histopathological appearance of erythema multiforme minor and major is not much different, but usually in major the edema and the blistering is more common. That's why we expect to see more epidermal spongiosis and intraepidermal vesiculation and maybe necrosis as well. So it is just along with the interface dermatitis, which is the main finding of all the spectrum of diseases, including erythema multiforme. So early bullous EM, we see a subepidermal blister, but since there is not much of epidermal necrosis, so the epidermis above the blister is not. Here, this is you see this epidermis on the top of the blister is necrotic. It is almost similar to Stevens-Johnson or 10. Clinical features. Erythema multiforme minor, which account for 80% of the cases of this syndrome. Initially macular, later on papular and urticarial, and typical targetoid. The lesion appear in successive crops for a few days and fade in 1 to 2 weeks, sometimes leaving dusky discoloration. So remember that like chickenpox, EM lesions occur in crops. Site I mentioned, the dorso of hand, palm, wrist, feet, extensor aspect of elbow, knee, less commonly the face. Cognitive phenomena is also. Photoaggravation is also. Localized vesicobullous form. This form is intermediate in severity. Skin lesions present as erythematous macules or plaques, often with central bulla and marginal ring of vesicles, which is called as herpes iris of Bateman. Mucous membrane may be involved. Then EM major. This is a severe illness associated with more extensive targetoid lesions and mucous membrane involved. The onset is sudden, although there may be a prodromal illness 1 to 13 days before the eruption. EM major may involve the mucous membrane, but the involvement of mucous membrane is never very serious. An important point, differentiating point between EM major and Stephen Johnson is lack of constitutional symptoms, which will be present in Stephen Johnson and less in EM major. That is fever, malaise, body aches. Atypical cases can occur everywhere, anytime. Rowell syndrome. The syndrome comprised of lupus erythematosus associated with EM-like. Immunological findings of speckled anti-nuclear antibodies, anti-Rho, anti-Da, and a positive test for rheumatoid. Management for EM major and EM minor. Symptomatic treatment with topical steroids and antipruritic drugs is only necessary in limited papular or localized bullous form. For more severe disease, we give prednisolone 30 to 60 milligram, decreasing over 1 to 4 weeks. Antiviral therapy is disappointing during acute attack. However, if the recurrent EM is because of recurrence in herpes simplex, we can consider giving long-term antiviral prophylaxis. Thalidomide have been used in few cases to prevent relapse of recurrent EM. Other drugs, mainly in idiopathic or post-herpetic EM, include dapsone, azathioprine, mycophenolate, mofetil, and cyclosporin. I don't think we would be requiring any of these drugs because these EM and EM minor and major are not so severe. Now coming to Stephen Johnson syndrome and toxic epidermal necrolysis. These are severe mucocutaneous reactions due to drugs characterized by blistering and epidermal scuffing. The two terms describe phenotypically within a severity of spectrum, in which Stephen Johnson syndrome is less extensive and TAN is more extensive. You all know about this. Stephen Johnson syndrome was considered for many years to be a severe form of erythema multiforme. Dial coined the term TAN to describe new syndrome characterized by extensive epidermal loss. And over time, it was recognized that a severe form of Stephen Johnson syndrome could lead to extensive epidermolysis. In 1993, a group of clinicians and experts suggested that Stephen Johnson syndrome should be removed from EM spectrum and added to TAN, therefore propounding a new spectrum of severe drug-induced dermatosis, Stephen Johnson syndrome, and TAN. So such kind of controversies keep on erupting. So in 1993, the experts tried to separate Stephen Johnson from EM. Stephen Johnson and TAN presents as acute eruption characterized by epidermal loss, multi-site mucositis, and systemic disturbance. Although both are devastating disease, in severe cases, the acute phase is accompanied by a variety of systemic complications and may proceed to multi-organ failure and carrying appreciable mortality due to acute illness and survivors developing long-term sequelae. Having said that, what are the evidence to still include Stephen Johnson and 10 as a spectrum of EM? First of the evidence is that even in cases of Stevens-Johnson syndrome, you may find some targetoid. Number two, the histopathology of EM minor, EM major is very similar to histopathology of Stevens-Johnson syndrome and 10. The only difference is in the difference in severity. So, on the basis of these two evidence, it was previously thought that both the two diseases are part of the spectrum. But now, the purpose of separating Stevens-Johnson and 10 from EM spectrum is that Stevens-Johnson and 10 are now considered to be a multi-system diseases with severe complications and sequelae. However, Erythema multiforme minor and major are not so serious diseases. Epidemiology. Incidence of Stevens-Johnson and 10 is 1 to 2 cases per million per year. It occurs in all age groups, including infants and children. There is increased incidence of Stevens-Johnson and 10 in women. Occur in both ethnic groups. There is increased risk of Stevens-Johnson and 10 in HIV-infected individuals. Suggested association with SLE. Pathophysiology. Stevens-Johnson 10 is primarily drug-induced phenomenon, with the culprit drug being demonstrated in approximately 85% of the cases. The disease process is initiated by drug-induced cytotoxic T lymphocytes.
सर बहुत डिस्टर्बेंस हो रही है
अभी भी हो रही है
नहीं सर अब ठीक है
वो कुछ बोल रहा था. The disease process is initiated by drug-induced cytotoxic T lymphocytes and major histocompatibility class 1 restricted class 1 presentation, which is required for the presentation of drug antigen to the cytotoxic T lymphocytes. Several cytokines like tumor necrotic factor alpha, interferon gamma, and nitrous oxide synthetase induce keratinocyte damage. Commonest drug causing Stevens-Johnson are allopurinol, carbamazepine, lamotrigine, nevirapine, then phenyl, phenobarbital, phenytoin, and sulfatone. Stevens-Johnson syndrome patient develop lesions on almost entire body surface, but strangely, scalp is usually spared. If more than 30% of the body is involved, then it is toxic epidermal necrolysis, and it is characterized by sheets of epidermal necrosis and skin which is exfoliating. In at least 15% of the cases, culprit drug is not identified. Clinical features. A latent period occurs between initiation of the culprit drug and onset of Stevens-Johnson between 7 to 10 days, but it ranges from 5 to 28 days. History of malaise, fever, and upper respiratory tract symptoms often precedes the onset of the rash. Rash commonly occur on face and chest then disseminate widely. Pruritus and cutaneous pain accompanies the skin sign. Involvement of mucous membrane occur before, after, or simultaneously with the dermatosis. If respiratory tract is involved, it presents with cough, chest pain, dyspnea, and hemoptysis. And bowel is involved, is characterized by diarrhea. Earlier skin lesions are typically targets or purpuric macules. That is why I was mentioning that Stephen Johnson and 10 were included in the spectrum of EM. At initial cases, the lesions may be targetoid, but subsequently it spreads to the trunk and limbs. Lesions increase in size and number in 5 to 7 days. Vesicles or fluid-filled blisters develop. Then large areas of confluent erythema. Detachable epidermis is demonstrated by positive Nikolsky sign. Combination of necrolytic blistering and shearing reduced epidermal detachment will produce areas of denuded dermis, which readily bleed and become secondarily. So since sheets of epidermis become necrosed, these sheets of epidermis are lost because of the friction or shearing. Combination is lost, as a result of which uh, denuded areas are seen on the skin. Involvement of mucous membrane of eye, mouth, nose, and genitals. Usually an early feature and lead to erosive and hemorrhagic mucositis. Compared to Stevens-Johnson syndrome, 10 is more frequently involved with ocular changes or ocular involvement. And it is characterized by mucosal erythema, blistering and ulceration. Tongue and palate may be involved, and similarly oropharynx, larynx, and respiratory. Drinking and eating becomes severely compromised. The, the oral and ocular changes are really very important in Stevens-Johnson syndrome, because I have experienced a case in which patient recovered from Stevens-Johnson, 10, but became blind because of the eye specialist not taking care of the eyes. Actually, since these are our patients, it's our responsibility to take charge and involve all the specialists. Involvement of urogenital tract is characterized by mucosal erythema, blistering, and erosion. 1/4 of Stevens-Johnson and 10 patients develop pulmonary manifestations. I have already mentioned dyspnea, tachypnea, and bronchial hypersecretion. In less severe end of spectrum, differentiation of Stevens-Johnson from EM major is difficult. Erythema multiforme major and Stevens-Johnson can be differentiated that both EMM and Stevens-Johnson involve mucous membrane with epidermal detachment of less than 10%. However, erythema multiforme major lesion consists of typical targetoid and localized to limb and extremity, while the Stevens-Johnson syndrome, the lesions are atypical targets with predilection of torso. EMM is mainly related to herpes simplex and Stevens-Johnson to drug. And last thing is, constitutional symptoms are less severe in EMM and more in Stevens-Johnson. This is a long list of differential diagnoses of Stevens-Johnson and 10. EM major, pemphigus vulgaris or paraneoplastic pemphigus, mucous membrane pemphigoid, bullous pemphigoid, bullous LE, linear IgA, bullous fixed egg eruption, acute bullous graft versus host disease, staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome, acute generalized exanthemic pustulosis. The Stevens-Johnson syndrome is defined as This I mentioned before, involving less than 10% of the body surface area, then overlap between Stevens-Johnson and 10, between 10 to 30% and 10 with spots, detachment greater than 30%, plus widespread purpuric macules and flat atypical targets. Then 10 without spots, detachment greater than 30%, loss of epidermal sheets without purpuric macules and target. Complications. Extensive epidermal detachment, complicated by deranged thermoregulatory control, leading to hypothermia. Skin failure also occurs. All the skin diseases, severe skin diseases, which result in epidermal necrosis and epidermal loss are associated with skin failure. Skin failure is the term we use in all such extensively involving skin conditions in which skin is cause of hypothermia, loss of protein, high output cardiac failure, or because of shock. So all the systemic complications due to severe skin diseases which are life threatening are called as skin failures. Epidermal detachment of 50% of body surface area lead to 2 to 3 liter of fluid loss every day from exudation and evaporation. And this fluid depletion will result in end organ hypoperfusion and acute kidney injury. Hematological complications include anemia and leukopenia. Then abnormal liver functions, hypoalbuminemia, and hyperglycemia may develop. Epidermal necrolysis may occur in bronchi, resulting in bronchial erosion and airway obstruction. The commonest life-threatening complication in toxic epidermal necrolysis is sepsis, which quickly follows skin infection and lead to multi-organ failure. Once patient is recovering, the most disabling long-term complications are ocular, which include scarring, dry eyes, dysdiachesias, entropion, trichiesias, and ocular surface failure. Post-inflammatory dyspigmentation, hypo and hyperpigmentation, shedding of nails may occur. Telogen effluvium, oral mucosal scarring, food trapping and inability to take food. Then esophageal stricture, psychological sequelae, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Disease course and prognosis. During the acute phase of Stevens-Johnson and 10, the extent of skin involvement increased over first 5 to 7 days. With appropriate supportive therapy and intensive skin and mucous membrane direct therapy, re-epithelialization should start once the disease stops extending. So first 5 to 7 days are most important in all cases of toxic epidermal necrolysis. Delayed healing will occur in presence of skin sepsis and systemic complications, and if the triggering drug has not been removed. Uncomplicated re-epithelialization will take 2 to 3 weeks. Overall, Stevens-Johnson syndrome and 10 mortality is 22%, but in Stevens-Johnson is less than 10%. The cause of death is septicemia, I've already mentioned. Once the patient is admitted, following are the investigations which are to be ordered. Full blood count, ESR, urea and electrolyte, amylase, bicarbonates, glucose, these all are required for secrotin analysis. Then LFTs, C-reactive protein, coagulation studies, we all need these like C-reactive protein, ESR, coagulation profile to monitor the progress of the disease. Then anti-nuclear antibodies, complement, indirect immunofluorescence may or may not be required. The 7 parameters used to calculate the Scoton score for toxic epidermal necrolysis. These 7 criteria are age greater than 40, presence of malignancy, tachycardia, epidermal detachment of more than 10%, serum urea more than 10 millimoles per liter, glucose more than 14 millimoles per liter, and bicarbonate less than 20 millimoles per liter. Each and every score, each and every point has a single score. So if the patient has score 1, that is one of the criteria is positive, then the predicted mortality is 3.9%. Similarly, as the number of scores increases, the mortality increases in folds. Like in 4 of the criteria positive, the mortality is 62.2, and in all the criteria positive, it is 98.5%. Biopsy must be taken from lesional skin and peri-blister lesion for immunofluorescence. Chest X-ray is mandatory. So in toxic epidermal necrolysis, as the name signifies, there is an epidermal necrolysis, and we see almost complete necrosis of epidermis. And there is a subepidermal blistering, and here you can see the subepidermal blistering. These are the dermal papillae, and this is stratum corneum. But in between there is no epidermis, so the complete epidermis is necrosed and lost. Here the necrosed epidermis is seen, and necrosed epidermis can be differentiated from normal epidermis in that these keratinocytes, you cannot determine the keratinocytes, the individual keratinocytes cannot be seen here. Their definitions, their cell boundaries are completely lost, and all of the epidermis is converted into a uniform caseous or eosinophilic mass. Here you can see the apoptotic or colloid bodies with pigmentary incontinence in the upper dermis. This is a subepidermal blister, stratum corneum, no epidermis, and pigmentary incontinence, and it's relatively a cell-poor blister. Management. It is imperative to identify the culprit drug as soon as possible and stop it immediately. Because if we cannot stop the drug, then the patient has no chances of survival. The fundamental element of management is meticulous care of the lesional skin and mucous membrane, coupled with intensive supportive care for systemic complications and acute skin pain. The patient should be managed in an intensive care facility or in a burn ward with intensivist or burn specialist. Currently, the efficacy of active pharmacological therapy in Stephen Johnson and 10 is not clear, nor the role of surgical debridement. First of all, the environment and care provision. Since the cutaneous defect in Stephen Johnson and 10 is just like a superficial burn, patient should ideally be kept in a burn center or burn unit. Why? Because in burn unit, the facilities for daily dressings is available, which is not available even a good intensive care. Multidisciplinary team management is required. I would suggest that whenever you receive such a case, you immediately establish a multidisciplinary team, which comprises of medical specialist and intensivist, a surgical specialist or a burn surgeon or a plastic surgeon, then eye specialist. You should all call a meeting of these specialists to coordinate the treatment of that patient. Nursing care is very important, microbiologist, dietitian, physiotherapist and pharmacist. Barrier nursing is required for this patient because the patient has a lot of chances of developing sepsis because most of the skin is denuded and the skin surface is very ready to receive any sort of infection. Very careful handling of the skin is essential because most of the epidermis is necrolyzed and only a slight shearing force can denude the epidermis. Other source of skin trauma like sphygmometers, cuffs, adhesive ECG leads, dressings, risk tags should be avoided. There are two types of approaches in dealing the skin, a conservative approach and interventional approach. The conservative approach says that the detached epidermis should be left in place, which would act as the biological dressing.
सर एक्सक्यूज मी आवाज नहीं आ रही
मैंने म्यूट किया था सॉरी आवाज अच्छा in conservative approach the detached epidermis is left inside. The blisters can be decompressed by fluid aspiration and blister fluid retain. So conservative approach, if you don't have a facility of operation theater or a facility of a burn specialist available, it is better that you should treat the patient with this conservative approach. That is, don't detach the epidermis and keep the blister roof intact and apply dressings over it. But if you have a good operation theater, you have a good team, you have a burn specialist, then the interventional approach is preferable, in which you remove all the denuded epidermis and do burn dressings. There is no comparative study in which conservative and interventional regime are compared, but the interventional regime is definitely preferable because here it is the proactive approach. The intact skin should be cleansed each day gently by irrigation with sterile water, and patient should be bathed with chlorhexidine if in case the skin is not that damaged. If the skin is damaged, then the whole skin is covered by greasy emollients like 50-50 WSP and liquid paraffin. Topical antibiotics are used on sloughed and crusted areas, especially along the flexure. The patient should be taken care of fluid loss and protein loss and reducing the pain. Involvement of eye specialists is very important very early. And ocular lubricants should be given, broad spectrum topical antibiotic and steroid combination. For mouth, give the muco-protectant mouthwashes and cleaning the mouth and applying the gels and anti-inflammatory rinses. Then urogenital tract, application of topical corticosteroid antimicrobial cream, and if urethra is involved, then it is better to catheterize the patient. Then calculation of fluid is very important because it the rules of the burn fluid replacement in burn applies to 10 and Stephen Johnson. Fluid replacement using crystalloid fluid 2 ml per kilogram per weight of body surface area per weight per divided by the body surface area. Alternatively, we can use the urine output to guide the fluid replacement. Nutritional supplement is required, which include the protein intake, NG feeding, Then early catabolic phase 20 to 25 kilocalories per kg. So this, now here the nutritionist come, who should calculate the nutritional requirement and plan the diet accordingly. So it's not easy to manage and treat a case of Steven Johnson and analgesia is very important because patients are in extreme pain, having more than 70-80% of the body involved, causing severe pain. Patient should receive adequate analgesia to ensure comfort at rest, which may include the opiate analgesics. Adjuvant like gamma aminobutyric acids may have an opiate sparing role. Topical analgesia of mucous membrane may help in reducing the pain in oral mucosa. Then stress ulceration can be catered for, and venous thromboembolism. This should be taken care of. Proton pump inhibitor and low molecular weight heparin. Anemia, leukopenia can occur. Neutropenia occur, which also causes an increased risk of developing sepsis. So, cutaneous infection is a common complication. Frequent bacterial swabs should be sent almost daily to find any kind of colonization. Genital culture should also be taken. Then other signs of fever, infection like fever. Another important point here is that we usually treat the 10 or Steven Johnson with high dose of steroids. If we are using high dose of steroid like pulse therapy, you would not encounter fever. So this sign of infection will not be seen. We have to resort to other signs like swabs and like laboratory parameters. Then confusion, hypotension, reduced urine output, reduced oxygen saturation. These all are signs of sepsis. Active therapies. What are the active therapies which we can do to save our patients? There is only one randomized controlled trial of anti-tumor necrotic factor agent. Thalidomide was, however, discontinued because of excess deaths. Intravenous immunoglobulins, systemic corticosteroids, and cyclosporin all have doubtful roles. There are studies promoting its use and studies showing no use or no effectiveness in different settings. So there is unequivocal use of any of the particular systemic intervention in Steven Johnson and 10. Intravenous immunoglobulin. This study shows 10 patients recovering by use of intravenous immunoglobulin. Corticosteroids have been used in management of Steven Johnson and 10. It has been suggested that the high dose of systemic corticosteroid early in disease may switch off the inflammatory process. So, patient receiving 100 milligram or 1.5 milligram per kg of dexamethasone for 3 days or 1000 milligram of prednisolone for 3 consecutive days shows decreased mortality. So, more studies are in favor of giving high dose of pulse corticosteroid therapy. Cyclosporin also have good effect. 3 milligram per kg for 10 days and then taper. Plasmapheresis does not have a very good benefit. Same is the case with tumor necrotic factor alpha inhibitors, and etanercept is used in only one case. So the treatment summary is withdrawal of culprit drug, then nurse the patient in specialized unit, institute supportive care package, which include heated environment, barrier nursing, fluid replacement, nutritional regime, analgesia, and preventing infection. Then specialized topical therapy or dressing. Second line, intravenous immunoglobulin systemic corticosteroids and cyclosporin. Thank you all. Questions?
सर एक क्वेश्चन है, लाइक इन नॉर्मल सेटअप्स हम लोग जो इस तरह के पेशेंट्स आते हैं जिनमें म्यूकोजल इन्वॉल्वमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा हुई हुई होती है, तो वो वी अवॉइड द कैथेटराइजेशन या एनजी ट्यूब पास नहीं करते बिकॉज ऑफ द डेंजर ऑफ रप्चर। तो उसमें
देखो,
इसमें तो लिखा
एनजी
हुआ है
ट्यूब
कि
तो
करनी
पास
चाहिए।
उस वक्त करना पड़ेगी कि अगर पेशेंट फूड नहीं ले सकता, क्योंकि आपको मालूम है कि पेशेंट से को पानी भी पीना है और पेशेंट ने प्रोटीन्स भी खाने हैं। अगर तो उसकी इसोफेगस इन्वॉल्व है और वो खाना पीना नहीं कर सकता, तो आपको एनजी ट्यूब पास करनी पड़ेगी। और कैथेटराइजेशन के लिए भी यही रूल है कि इफ द पेशेंट इज हैविंग बर्निंग पेन या उसको बहुत पेन हो रहा है यूरिन में और आप देख रहे हैं कि उसके एक्सटर्नल और यूरिनरी मीएटस पे इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, तो बेहतर है कि आप कैथेटराइज करें, क्योंकि
नहीं,
वरना फिर
पैम्फिगस
स्ट्रक्चर
वल्गैरिस के
डेवलप हो
पेशेंट्स
जाएगी।
में भी हम कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि उसमें भी तो म्यूकोजल इरोजन्स काफ़ी ज़्यादा बनती हैं।
किसके अंदर?
पैम्फिगस वल्गैरिस के जो पेशेंट्स आते हैं सिवियर।
पैम्फिगस वल्गैरिस किसी तौर पे भी स्टीवन जॉनसन और 10 के करीब करीब भी नहीं। पैम्फिगस वल्गैरिस से पेशेंट ठीक होते हैं, स्टीवन जॉनसन और 10 से पेशेंट जाते हैं। मैं कहता हूँ कोई कंपैरिजन ही नहीं है पैम्फिगस वल्गैरिस का 10 के मरीज के साथ। मतलब पैम्फिगस तो हम अपने वार्डों में ट्रीट कर रहे होते हैं और 10 तो मतलब मुझे अपनी नॉलेज में कम मरीज मेरे बचे हैं, ज्यादा मरीज मेरे गए। तो 10 का कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं है स्टीवन जॉनसन सिंड्रोम और 10 का पैम्फिगस के मुकाबले। आप कोई पैम्फिगस पैरानियोप्लास्टिकस को बात करें, आप कोई और सिवियर ड्रेस सिंड्रोम की बात करें, तो चलो ठीक है, वो सिवियर सिंड्रोम। लेकिन पैम्फिगस को आप स्टीवन जॉनसन और 10 से किसी तौर पे भी कंपेयर ना,
इरोजन से रिलेटेड आई वाज
कुछ भी
थिंकिंग
नहीं है
कि
इरोजन।
दोनों में
जो सिविरिटी म्यूकस मेम्ब्रेन इन्वॉल्वमेंट की स्टीवन जॉनसन और 10 में होती है, वो सिविरिटी किसी भी और ब्लिस्टिंग डिसऑर्डर में, किसी भी ब्लिस्टिंग। तो मेरा तो ये आप सब लोगों को मशवरा है कि वंस यू रिसीव अ केस ऑफ 10 एंड स्टीवन जॉनसन, इट्स बेटर कि आप सिर्फ एक सुपरवाइजरी रोल पे रहें एंड लेट द बर्न स्पेशलिस्ट, सर्जिकल स्पेशलिस्ट एंड इंटेंसिविस्ट टेक केयर ऑफ दिस पेशेंट। हम मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर नॉट trained and capable of handling such cases. डे टू डे मैनेजमेंट चाहिए होती है। डे टू डे इनकी ना आपने यूरिन आउटपुट इनपुट और आपने इनकी जो सी रिएक्टिव प्रोटीन, बाकी जो इनके सेप्टिसीमिया के मार्कर्स हैं वो करने हैं, ड्रेसिंग्स करनी है। देयर आर 1000 थिंग्स टू बी डन। तो सुपरवाइजरी रोल पे रहते हुए ये पेशेंट जो है ना, ये फौरन आप इन लोगों को इन्वॉल्व करें, बल्कि सबसे बेहतर है कि आप एक मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी मीटिंग कॉल करके सब लोगों को इन्वॉल्व कर लें। और ऑफ कोर्स किसी छोटी जगह पे ये केस मैनेज नहीं होता, तो डेफिनेटली इसको बेस्ट सेंटर में भेजें जब भी कभी ये केस मिले आप।
सर एक क्वेश्चन है। सर आपके एक्सपीरियंस में स्टीरॉइड का हाई डोज आपने कितना उससे यूज किया इनिशियली, या फिर आप लो डोज को लेके लंबा अरसा चलते हैं?
यार देखो, इसमें प्रॉब्लम यह है स्टीवन जॉनसन और 10 में कि हमारे पास टाइम बहुत थोड़ा है। हम ये नहीं कर सकते कि हम एक हफ्ते में टेस्टिंग ही करते हैं, क्योंकि 5 to 7 डेज आर इम्पोर्टेंट। 5 to 7 डेज में पेशेंट बच भी जाएगा और 5 to 7 डेज में पेशेंट अलमिया के पास भी चला जाएगा। तो आपने इन 5 से 7 दिन में जो कुछ कर सकते हैं आप कर लें। स्टीरॉयड का फायदा ये है कि ये सबसे सस्ता ट्रीटमेंट है। मिथाइल प्रेडनिसोलोन ले लें या डेक्सामेथासोन, आप किसी भी सेंटर में बैठ के आप ये पल्स थेरेपी कर सकते हैं। इंट्रावीनस इम्यूनोग्लोबुलिन कुछ दिन पहले मैंने एक पेशेंट को लगवाई, 10 लाख रुपए लगे पूरी डोज कंप्लीट होने में। पेशेंट सर्वाइव भी नहीं की और वो सीएमएच की पेशेंट। इसी तरीके से साइक्लोस्पोरिन को आप देंगे, इट इज एन एक्सपेंसिव थेरेपी। तो स्टीरॉयड एक ऐसा ट्रीटमेंट है कि जो आप सस्ता भी है, अब मैनेजेबल भी है, आप दे भी सकते हैं, और ये पेशेंट तो है ही एक गैम्बल, और आपने ये गैम्बल खेलना है। तो स्टीरॉयड, सारी जो डिस्कशन है रिगार्डिंग गिविंग स्टीरॉयड और नॉट गिविंग स्टीरॉयड, ज़्यादा सपोर्ट गिविंग स्टीरॉयड। मैंने भी अपने इस लेक्चर में स्टीरॉयड के देने को ज़्यादा सपोर्ट किया है, बजाय इसके कि उसको ना दें। क्योंकि अगर आप इन्फ्लेमेटरी प्रोसेस को रोक दें और इस डिजीज की प्रोग्रेस को रोक दें, तो आप पेशेंट में बेनिफिट ला सकते हैं, और इन्फ्लेमेटरी प्रोसेस को स्टीरॉयड रोक सकते हैं।
सर पल्स थेरेपी इटसेल्फ भी तो ठीक ठाक पेशेंट को स्ट्रेस में और हर चीज मतलब कि वर्स ही करती है, तो पल्स रिकमेंड मतलब आप करते हैं?
मैं तो आपको कह रहा हूँ कि ये गैम्बल है जो आपने खेला है।
ठीक सर,
क्योंकि ना, अगर आप पल्स थेरेपी नहीं दे रहे, आप उसको पेम्पिकस की तरह से ट्रीट कर रहे हैं, तो वो तो उस स्टीरॉयड का इफेक्ट आने में ही तकरीबन 4 से 5 दिन लगते हैं।
ठीक है सर।
तो आप तो मतलब आपको तो इस वक्त डेज में काम करना है, घंटों में काम करना है, आपने दिनों में नहीं काम करना है। ये पेम्पिकस का मरीज नहीं है, ये जा रहा है आपके हाथ से, इसको आपने बस बचाने की कोशिश करनी। मतलब आपके कॉन्सेप्ट, मेरा कॉन्सेप्ट ये है कि 10 पेम्पिकस का मरीज आपके हाथ से जा रहा है और आपने उसको रोकना है, ना कि ये कि उसको, वो बचा हुआ मरीज है उसको ठीक करना, आपने उसको बचाना है बस। तो जो हो सकेगा आपने कोशिश करनी है, बाकी अल्लाह की।
थैंक यू सर।
और
सर
हाँ जी,
सर जो एरिथीमा मल्टीफॉर्म में मेजर है और एसजीएस है, इसमें सिर्फ बॉडी जो सिम्टम्स की इम्प्रूवमेंट है और स्वेरिटी है बॉडी के ऊपर, उससे
10%
से
ये दोनों में।
डिफरेंशिएट करेंगे स्किन लियन? तो सर फिर किस तरह से पता चलेगा, मतलब क्लिनिकली मैं पूछ रही हूँ कि ये
अलग
अपार्ट
स्लाइड
फ्रॉम
बनाई
दी
थी।
सर वो सम अप कर दें फिर भी पता नहीं क्यों कंफ्यूजन ही रहती है।
स्टीवन जॉनसन और 10 में दोनों में म्यूकस मेम्ब्रेन इन्वॉल्वमेंट हो रही है, और ब्लिस्टरिंग और एपिडर्मल डिटैचमेंट लेस देन 10% है। ईएमएम में लीजन्स टिपिकली टारगेटॉइड लीजन मिलेंगे, और ज्यादातर लिम्स और एक्सट्रीमिटी पे मिलेंगे, जबकि स्टीवन जॉनसन में एटिपिकल टारगेटॉइड लीजन्स होंगे और ज्यादातर टॉर्सो में होंगे, बॉडी पे होंगे। ईएमएम की मोस्ट प्रॉब्ली कॉज हर्पीस सिम्प्लेक्स होगी, और स्टीवन जॉनसन की मोस्ट कॉमन कॉज इन्फेक्टेड ड्रग्स होगी। और ईएमएम में स्टीवन जॉनसन के मुकाबले में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल सिम्टम्स लेस सेवेयर होंगे। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल सिम्टम्स लाइक फीवर, मलेज, बॉडी एक, जॉइंट पेन, इस तरह के सिम्टम्स ईएमएम में कम होंगे और स्टीवन जॉनसन में ज्यादा। ठीक है,
ऑलराइट सर, थैंक यू सर।
चलो बस, अगर और कोई सवाल नहीं है तो